Hey everyone, welcome back. Um, I have been discussing the character of the Hulk with some friends of mine these past few days. In fact, the Hulk has been coming up a lot. I don't know why. Maybe it's because a lot of my friends and I have been revisiting the MCU movies, especially the Infinity War saga, where the Hulk was beaten up by Thanos and then came back as this really smart, nerdy version known as the Professor Hulk, where Bruce Banner basically controls the body of the Hulk, right? So the mind of Bruce, the body of the Hulk, and universally, whoever I speak to, they all slam this portrayal of the Hulk. They all say that look, it's a travesty what they ended up doing with the Hulk, because he's like a timid, smaller version of the classic savage force of nature, punch you in the face Hulk, which is a Hulk that everyone loves, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, whether you grew up in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s. You know, the 70s, of course, had the classic Bill Bixby portrayal of Bruce Banner, and then Lou Ferrigno playing the Hulk. But that was a great contrast, right? So you had the classic intellectual Bixby playing, Banner being played by Bixby, and then you had this brute force of nature, the Hulk, being played by Ferrigno, and they both did justice to their respective roles. And then you had all the cartoons in the 80s, which basically showed the Hulk in the same way, this savage, superpowered brute, intrinsically good-natured, inherently good-natured rather, but having massive, anger issues. And that makes sense because anger triggers the Hulk. And then in all the comics that have come before and since, the classic Hulk is always depicted as this savage, uncontrollable beast, born of rage and frustration and whatnot. So if you take that character and you try to evolve that character or fundamentally change that character and make him into a professor of whatever, you end up getting Professor Hulk, which is what we got in the MCU portrayal at the very end of the Infinity War saga, where you had that timid version of the Hulk take frame. Now, it's not that the Hulk hasn't been portrayed as intelligent in the comic books. He has on a number of occasions. One of the most memorable is, of course, Joe Fixit, where the Grey Hulk resurfaced and he had the intelligence. It wasn't Bruce Banner's psyche that was in control. It was some other persona of the Hulk called Joe Fixit, who was basically like a gangster enforcer, a mob enforcer, and he would do odd jobs here and there. But he had street smarts. He wasn't intellectually on the level of Bruce Banner, but he had street smarts. And that was a very interesting character because, he had very little scruples, and he had the strength almost of the Savage Green Hulk, almost as strong. I think at that point he was probably Thing-level strength. But really, really interesting idea because he was still mean. He was a mean, savage Hulk. He just had the smarts to go with it. Then in the 90s, you had this new version of the Hulk. I would say the proper version of Professor Hulk, drawn by Dale Keown and written by Peter David. Two great collaborators in the comic book industry, and certainly their run on the Hulk, I think, was phenomenal. It was a great run, and I think that this is a great example of when, if you try to evolve the character of the Hulk in terms of his intelligence, it can be done really, really well. To me, this was one of the best runs of the Hulk ever, and it wasn't your sort of classic savage Hulk. It genuinely was Professor Hulk. So Bruce was there in the controlling chair, and the Hulk's physique was in full display. And the great thing about this comic book was that it really, really showed the Hulk, I think, in his perfect form. His strength was the same. His physique was very impressive. Dale Keown is an amazing artist, and of course his work on Pitt when he joined Image Comics. Pitt was also, fantastically drawn. Dale Keown is one of those artists that you can spot like miles away. If you see his artwork anywhere, you're not going to be confused with anyone else. Dale Keown is Dale Keown, and Peter David, of course, is also a very good artist because is a very good writer because he made sure that the stories showed the aggression of the Hulk. It wasn't the travesty that was uh, the MCU Hulk by any stretch of the imagination, and I think I'll always be grateful because reading these comics when I was a kid really, really filled me with a sense of awe. I liked the idea. At that time, when I was reading these comic books, I really liked the idea of a really smart Hulk who had the physique to match. And this can only be done when you have a writer such as Peter David and an artist of the caliber of Dale Keown. And I'm the kind of guy who really appreciates good art. I think that no matter how good the story, if you don't have the art to match it, I think it's detrimental to the comic book. It's detrimental to sales. Comic books are really, if you think about it, they are very much a visual medium. Uh, Good stories definitely sell, and good stories coupled with great art sell really well. But I think that good stories, where the artwork is substandard, suffer a lot, which is a shame because you can't blame the story itself. You can't blame the writer, and I suppose you can't really blame any artist either, right? Artists do what they do. They are as good as they are, and you either like them or you don't. But luckily, in this case, in the instance of this collaboration between Dale Keown and Peter David, I think it's a fantastic collaboration. I would say that it's on par, if not greater, than the collaboration that we had with Capullo and Snyder on the Batman run. And look, the Capullo and Snyder run on Batman is legendary, right? Is a modern day legend. But this was also very good. If you look at the depiction of the Hulk here, you can see the savagery. You can see the savagery, and you can see that he knows what he's talking about because he's actually talking, which is great. So, in my opinion, if you do it well, then anything can be impressively done. And this version of the Hulk is a prime example of when you put effort into a project, when you really think about what it is that fans will appreciate, then you come out with a really good product. Why the MCU did not or could not or cannot understand this principle is beyond me. I did something a little, just a little while ago about the destruction of iconic characters and how MCU has mucked up two major characters, Hulk and Thor. And I still stand by that. I still stand by that. But luckily, the comics, at least the comics, or certainly at least in this run of the comics, that didn't happen, and I'm very grateful for that. I think it's amazing. I think it fills me with more happy childhood memories having read this. There's no angst in terms of stuff that I read when I was a kid, which I really hate. It's mostly stuff that I really like, and this is one prime example of stuff that I really really like. I can say with full confidence that Dale Keown's artwork and Peter David's writing on their collaboration on the Hulk comic single-handedly had the effect of making the Hulk one of my favorite characters, comic book characters, at that time. I've always liked the Hulk, but there have been stages where I've ranked him in my top five, top 10, uh, maybe number one. I can't recall if that ever happened, but yeah, definitely definitely the top 20 characters, I would say yes. Influenced, of course, also by the '70s television show, which was phenomenal. That I mean, you could have an entire series of sort of episodes just based on how wonderful the '70s stuff was, the television program, that is. But images like this, drawn by Keown, and of course I think directed in a way by Peter David. I think Peter David had a lot of direction in terms of how this comic came out, how the artwork portrayed the Hulk, because you can see from this artwork that the Hulk is a little different. He's a more societally, what's the word? He's a you could imagine the Hulk here as a part of society, right? As a constructive part of society, going about doing his business and not smashing up buildings. But at the same time, the elements of the savagery that make up the Hulk, the classic Hulk, they're still there, and it's been drawn to perfection. This is a fantastic image. It's artwork like this and writing that sort of like impacted artwork like this that made me such a huge fan of the Hulk back in the day. Am I still a huge fan of the Hulk? Yeah, I like the Hulk, I do, and it was really good to see the Hulk in the initial Avengers movies when he came out. I had great hope. Even the Edward Norton Hulk I thought was pretty well done, although people complained about the fact that the Hulk looked a little skinny, and well, he was very ripped, but a little skinny. I don't know. I think that's besides the point. I think the savagery of the Hulk was very well presented in the Edward Norton version of the Hulk. And at the start of the Avengers, I think it was done really well. I don't know what happened. I always seem to go back when I become critical. I always seem to use the MCU version as my starting point for that. But yeah, I've got to possibly just stop hating on the MCU. Listen, they made a lot of money, right? And there are people out there who will probably say, people perhaps who aren't comic fans, who aren't as invested in comic book history and comic book characters as I am, who will probably say that, man, get over it. But if you're a comic book fan, if you're a fan of the character, I think you'll understand where this frustration, where this annoyance comes from. This is the kind of Hulk. This Hulk, drawn by Dale Keown and written by Peter David, who is a very good writer, at least as far as the Hulk run is concerned. This is the type of Hulk that we need if you are going to portray a Professor Hulk character, whether it's in the comics or whether it's on the big screen. And I genuinely do feel that you can do justice to the character if you follow this type of approach. But anyway, that's my 20p's worth in relation to Professor Hulk. Thank you guys for joining in and listening in. I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you will. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. All right, take it easy. Bye bye.